take that any day, all day. Yeah. What up, guys? Welcome back to Testing Normal, episode 70 Uno. 70 Uno. This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
It's a podcast where we talk about anything and everything we so desire.
And today we're talking about
politics
and fire.
Politics. It's a hot topic, one might say.
Ooh,
it's a very hot topic.
I don't know if I would go there.
Boom. Boom. Just drop that bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, what a crazy week.
Yes.
What a crazy year, but also what a crazy past 7 to 10 days.
Yes, I would totally agree.
It has been a nonstop kind of questioning what's happening in our current Willamette Valley area, from massive, not just Willamette Valley, but all of Oregon, basically, right?
Right.
It was, kind of a crazy situation on Monday night when there was some pretty pretty heavy windstorms kicking in.
Yeah.
And we had
I actually got an alert on my phone
for fire or for
unlike
wind?
a lot of people that didn't get the emergency alerts to evacuate. I got the wind alerts when I was headed towards I-5 in Jefferson, Oregon.
Oh wait, what on Monday night?
On Monday night.
Yeah.
The kids went out and I went out to drive some RC cars. And on our way there, we got the alert. And then on our way back, I was like, man, the visibility is nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like 0. I was going like 5 miles an hour through some spots. I'm like, this is not normal. We get to our house. It's dark as all get out.
On Monday night.
Yeah. And we go to bed. And I wake up in the middle of the night to my wife saying, hey, I think it's super smoky. And I look around. I'm like, what in the world? It's smoky everywhere in my house. And she's like, I think we have to go. That was
interesting because on Monday night for me, I think I'm not sure. I might have actually.
Man down.
Something. What did I do Monday night? I think I had. Oh, no. Okay. So my wife and kids were actually in Missouri. That's what it was.
Right.
Wife and kids were in Missouri. And Tuesday morning, people were getting alerts.
Yes.
And my wife called me
I actually texted you.
You had texted me, but I don't. But my wife had called me also, and I hadn't known anything that was going on. I was like, okay, what's going on? So she called me. She's like, hey, are you evacuating? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what?
And I texted you.
And then Jordan texted me like right around the same time.
I was like, dude, I wonder if we need to go.
Yeah, like do we need to leave? And then I look outside, and it's, of course, like all of Oregon is experienced at some point.
Like Mars.
Amber red,
Mars
right,
moved
skies. But the fires, apparently, I was listening to this gentleman. He was one of the section chiefs, basically, of the Beachy Creek fire, which then spread down into the Santiam Canyon. And listen to him talk about how it started.
And eventually met up with the Lion's Head fire. Now
right.
It's 300,000 plus acres.
Right.
Everywhere.
But the interesting thing about this fire that's a little bit of a controversy that's going on a little bit is, so the fire started out at about 50 acres, okay? 50 acres, and it was close to, like, in the Mount Jefferson area.
Yeah.
Region, I guess I should say. And then the winds picked up. It
was on a really steep cliff. So a lot of people have asked, like, why weren't they putting it out? Well, a lot of times fires are out there. They're a natural part of ecosystem. They actually do need to happen.
Right, and it was just
not
very
around
remote.
people.
It was in a very remote area, so they were just trying to cordon it off.
But it was super steep. They said they couldn't even climb in there. They said the risk was if they went in on foot to do it, because they were chucking stuff on it with helicopters and stuff.
Yeah, like
they wouldn't hike in because it was so steep that if it flared up and started to move, they wouldn't be able to retreat.
So 50 acres, wind starts picking up, it balloons.
Now it'd been there for a month.
No, I know, but it was at 50 acres.
Yeah, when that happened. Actually, it had grown to about 150.
The next day, it started picking up wind, and then it goes to 150. And then by the end of the night, it ballooned to thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands of acres overnight, basically from these massive winds.
It went from 150 to 130,000 acres really fast.
Yeah,
so
within a matter of hours.
One stat that I read was that at its peak growth, it was consuming 3 new acres per second.
That's bananas.
Yeah, 3 acres per second.
So fire gets down. This is on Monday when these fires are starting to really just get hairy and get crazy, and that's why actually
Monday night.
Well, Monday, because it was windy Monday.
And there was people, I've read accounts from people, a couple different people actually, that have said that, like, they had been asking around, should we leave? Should we be on a warning at least right now? Because they weren't even at like a level 1 from what I'm aware.
Who? Like Gates, you mean?
Like Detroit, Oregon.
Yeah. So they were rapidly spreading. And then a totally separate fire took place where an electrical line broke surrounding the
and this
main
one caused some of those
incident command in Gates, where the main fire brigade, I guess you would say, that was fighting the Beachy. What do you say,
Beachy Creek?
Beachy Creek.
It sounds
like a weird thing to say.
It sounds like a little kid. It sounds like we named, which it's kind of behaved like a little kid. It's had Beachy. A tantrum and it just flew all over the place.
Yeah. So Beachy Creek is still raging. Then the Gates, a fire starts in Gates from it. From an it was electrical line.
It was wind.
That wind
knocked
broke
over trees,
right?
Yeah.
Knocked over trees, and that surrounds the fire brigade. And so they actually spend.
Which, to be real, like some of this is still coming out. So if we're wrong or whatever.
Yeah. Well, this was actually
this is what we've been able to glean.
No, there's a Facebook, and I'll have it in our links. There's a Facebook link from one of the main fire incident coordinators, and he talks about this
for this fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for this fire. So, anyways.
Because pretty much all of Oregon's on fire. Like if you want to retreat, you can't go a direction that will get you away from smoke, which just sucks.
Right. Although I will talk about, I was in Sun River this week and I want to talk about that.
Okay.
But so then Incident Command says, okay, we've got to put this fire out in Gates. They put this fire out in Gates, surrounding their area, and then they evacuate to Staten as their next area of operation, which is near us. Yeah. So the kind of controversy that's surrounding the whole situation, though, is the fires basically were left unchecked to a degree. All of a large portion of Monday night and then
Tuesday.
And actually into Tuesday as well. And there were some firemen and on Tuesday, Jordan and I had gone up to Lyons actually because we were checking on some things.
We were checking on a friend that someone hadn't heard from.
Yeah. And
at the edge.
There were some firemen there, but actually, ironically, a lot of the main tankers we saw weren't local tankers. They were actually from outside, even Seaside. We had seen a tanker from Seaside.
There's people from all over the state.
Right. Yeah, but there was some controversy saying, why did this? It was a really large group of firemen actually, and all of Monday was when a lot of the deaths and terrible things that took place on Monday night. And they're saying, why weren't people out there on Monday night trying to fight these fires and at least get these people out of evacuating these areas? And I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to have to come out and a lot of information that's going to come out from this whole situation.
Well, I think a lot of it too is Oregon's never seen a fire spread like this. I mean, you remember those winds on Monday night? I was out there outside when they were blowing, and it felt like California. Like it wasn't Oregon. Oregon doesn't have dry wind, at least on this side of the state. They do in the desert side of the state. But here we just don't get that kind of wind. And it was like gale force. Like I heard one person compare this to a hurricane hitting a wildfire. Like it was just, that's what it was. It was hurricane speed winds smacking a wildfire. And so a lot of the people weren't even able to alert their neighbors because they were literally running for their lives.
Which is bananas.
They didn't have time to stop. I mean, can you imagine even just the thought of not having time to stop? Like if you stop, you die. Bad. Like that's, or at least that's your perception. If I stop and knock, I die. And some people knocked as many as they could and just had to get out.
So a part of this fallout, though, I mean, and granted, there's going to be a lot of paper trail that's going to be followed up on, a lot of situation that people more is going to come to light, and as time goes on. But the
some crazy stories I've read of people, survival stories of people getting out.
Oh, absolutely. But then the head chief, right, the main fire marshal for all of Oregon, recently resigned.
It says he resigned. He was forced to.
But it'll be really interesting to see what the story is behind that.
Yeah. Well, I listened to an interview by him right before I came here, actually, and he was talking about why. And he was off duty, so like in his time off, which really isn't time off, but
especially during
during when this was going on, I guess it was like when he was supposed to be home sleeping. He had a friend that had a loved one that was missing, and he went back up into the area to help them search for them, to try and save them.
But that was when
they told him it was an abuse of power
because they were telling other people you're not allowed to go
back in there.
So
and they said that since you broke lines, you broke.
It seemed
rules.
like when they really started restricting people from going there is when they implemented the National Guard in the area.
This was before that, though.
Was it before the National Guard release?
This was Tuesday. He would have gone there.
Was it Tuesday?
This was right after it happened.
Really?
Yeah. So he
It was Tuesday.
There. It was the day that a lot of things weren't happening up there. It was the day that you and I drove near it.
There was massive flames going on and nobody was even touching them.
Yeah. And I get, like, I don't understand how, like, there's 130,000 and now 300,000 acres is ridiculous to think about. You can't be just touching every flame that's there. I totally get that. But to me, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, it's like in a state of emergency, if you're willing to run in, so my mind is geared towards go and save those that you can.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe that's like the whole military thing fit with me and all that. Like you don't run away from danger just because it's dangerous if you can help. Like, well, the thing, don't cause problems for people that are trying to do it. And I'm not telling people they need to run into this area now.
Right. Well, you don't want to cause more death,
and you don't want to cause more.
You don't want to risk somebody else's life.
But in an emergency, what like, do you stand down? Does the state have the ability? Does the government have the ability to tell you you're not allowed to go in there and help save your family?
Well,
you know what I would. You know what would happen if
if it was my family,
if my family was in there, giant middle finger goes up while I'm running the other direction.
Yeah. Especially if it's your family, 100%.
And that's what a lot of these people were doing.
And to the credit of the community, Jordan and I went out on was it Tuesday night or Wednesday night?
Yeah. And I was out there
after
a couple days.
I think I had just gotten off work. And we went out and we were just kind of driving the hills and checking different areas out for spot fires.
We'd heard that there were some spot fires heading our way.
Yeah.
And that there were people working on it.
But the amount of local...
In our mind, we thought, what could we help?
Yeah.
But we got out there and realized there's nothing we can do.
It was pretty well under control.
Yeah.
But the amount of local militia, I would almost want to say, but it was like, local militia, local farmers, right?
It wasn't militia. It was farmers defending their land.
Yeah, it was really cool to see.
It was.
Basically, it was about 150 different trucks all around the backcountry,
all over the place,
driving constantly, dense checking smoke, on different,
looking for hot spots.
Yeah, looking for different hot spots all night long.
Because I don't know if people know this, but like you think like, oh, if the fire's not near me, it's not a problem. We're within, 4 miles,
4 to 5 miles,
at one spot from the fire line, and when a fire's going, those embers can fly up to 20 kilometers, if not further, and set more things on fire. So when we had those strong winds, it's totally like we had like burnt leaves landing on our house.
Right. Yep.
And things like that. So like that's what started a lot of this. And with the winds and everything, it just spreads so fast. It jumps over and skips things. Like we saw houses that were fine, and then the next house would be burned down, and the next house would be burned down. And there'd be like 3 fine houses.
It's just so crazy.
And it's like, it's bizarre, but the fire has it has no favorites. It takes what it wants and does that.
Well, and so what's really interesting is the social ramifications that surround an emergency, a state of emergency like this.
Right.
So you probably saw, I saw it on Facebook all over the place, but this is what was making like CNN headline news. One of the main things was talking about how Oregon residents are illegally stopping drivers at gunpoint during wildfire evacuations. And so
that's not what's going on.
So the Clackamas County,
at least around here, that's not what's going on.
Well, but I mean, we have seen signs that say,
if you loot, we shoot.
Yeah, if you loot, we shoot.
I'm totally down with that.
Looters equals will meet shooters or something like that.
Don't come loot that an area that's like in an emergency.
Right, that's insane.
It's
terrible.
You should be shot.
I'm
sorry.
Clackamas County, in Clackamas, that's like Oregon City, right? Is that Clackamas County?
It's like towards Gresham, Canby, like up there. That's where the fires are getting to. Estacada, those areas.
So the Clackamas County Sheriff said, we've had several people, talking about, we're going to shoot, or actually stopping people saying, hey, we don't recognize your vehicle, with arming themselves and stopping vehicles.
I think that people were like making that a bigger deal than it was, because there were people here in Staten that were going around. They were patrolling, and the only time that they like stopped people was if they didn't recognize them. They would just ask them what they were up to. They weren't like brandishing firearms or anything like that. They were just trying to keep tabs on. Which I think that's cool, because we had people coming in from out of town that we didn't recognize, and it's a small town, and some of these towns are super duper small, and they know they're like, that car that's not recognizable. That's not a person that's here.
Well, but
let's make sure they're not up to no good.
In a larger area, when you start getting the Clackamas area, and you have people driving around arming themselves, stopping people brandishing their weapons.
It's a little bit different than here.
That's a little bit different. But I do think it is interesting how that is one of the main headlines versus encouraging
people are like
encouraging,
those people
uplifting.
out west.
Yeah,
they're still on their horses with their 6-shooters.
Yeah.
Like,
but also Oregon is like the most probably liberal voting state.
Let's be real. Portland is, but Portland's not Oregon.
Well, the Willamette Valley.
I want a shirt that says that now.
Yeah,
because they don't represent
Portland, Corvallis,
predominant
Eugene.
They might be by populace, but they are not. They're not Oregon. They're bananas. That's what they are. Well, I just dislike Portland. I've never hidden that. I just don't like it.
I like parts of it.
Yeah,
I like
the part that feed me food and then I leave and I don't like it.
Oh man, I do like Portland, but I don't appreciate the militia mentality of social, justice areas. Like Antifa kind of approach to things. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. Why is it okay? Why is it okay to loot? Yeah, never mind. We don't go for that. There was some people some of the protesters came and tried to stop fire trucks from going up the canyon. They did it at my exit. But
that was like, okay, what day
Tuesday.
was that? That was Tuesday. Yeah. Okay.
So for a day, the protesters didn't make the news. They got mad and they came down here to try to stop fire trucks. And do we know how long it lasted? Probably 10 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
It doesn't. So they've realized real quick, you don't fit in here. Like, we're just gonna get rid of you.
Well, the police knew. I mean, during an emergency, also, it would have probably been a different issue if there wasn't a state of emergency.
It would have been the people if the police weren't there first. Like,
probably. Probably.
It's like people don't stand for that here. Like,
dude, talk about a real political issue though that dropped on the news circle today that I'm pretty stoked about. You've probably already heard about this a little bit. You maybe have read a little bit about this.
Maybe.
But the old Trumparoo, the old Donald Ducky, had a pretty interesting tweet that he.
Oh my gosh! Of all the 50 that he did for the day / hour.
Yeah, that he does every minute. But basically, he said, and this was referencing to him, and so when Tim Kennedy, did you listen to Tim Kennedy's podcast on Joe Rogan?
No.
So
I haven't had a commute. That's the problem. That's why I haven't listened to podcasts.
Oh, okay.
You're like, I don't get the tie.
Yeah.
That's quiet.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
So Tim Kennedy, after he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, they were talking about President Trump and Joe Biden and their debates and everything. And Tim Kennedy said he tweeted and said, just the two candidates, cameras, and their vision of how to move this country forward. Who wants this? And then it was saying, Tim Kennedy was saying, President Trump, Joe Biden, go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Ooh. And then Trump responded and he says, and Tim Kennedy said, who wants this?
I'm down.
Yeah, he says, I do.
Ooh.
Trump responded and said, I do.
So here's what...
Can you imagine a Trump debate with Joe Rogan moderating?
I don't know how that would go.
God.
I would watch it.
It would be fantastic.
It would be super interesting. I think that Spotify would be super happy in their investment of Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan reposted it. So I think Joe might be interested in doing it.
Well, he would be, but I don't. I hope that happens. I don't. I'm going to be super shocked if it does, but I would love if it did.
Well,
so here's what I don't. Yeah. So there's something that we'll probably just keep jumping back to like what's happening here, but this is something that I wanted to bring up in all of this. How scared do the news agencies have to be right now that the best coverage that's come out of this canyon is just on the ground people with Facebook Live?
Well, the news anchors haven't. We see them all the time right off of this exit on Highway 22.
There's been a couple now that have gone into the Mill City area.
Have they? You've seen some in the Mill City area?
Yes, but the areas that like maybe have some hot spots now. There's no open flames, like that kind of stuff. But there's a couple of guys that have been, and I'll put links to them. They can argue with me, and I'll take them down if they want. But they have had some of the best coverage from those areas, talking about their relationships with working with law enforcement, now working with the National Guard, working with Marion County sheriffs and all that kind of stuff. And all of them have said, and I'll say this before I say anything else, they have said the people that are here from those agencies are the greatest people that they've ever been around. They said the National Guard is super cool people, all that kind of stuff. Now, the people giving those people orders of what to do are people in suits and I'll be very, very blunt. There are people in suits who never go outside, who are sitting somewhere in Salem or somewhere else that are making decisions while eating their tea and crumpets and have no idea what's going on out here.
So that was interesting. Did you listen to the sheriff's? There was a Marion County sheriff. I'm not sure what his name was, but he took several state representatives or legislators. I guess they're the same thing. I'm not sure. Terrible that I don't know that. But anyways, took a bunch of high-level state representatives from Salem and took them on a drive up to Detroit.
Oh, yeah?
So they could see the destruction.
That's
and
good.
He was talking about how Highway 22, when he was going up there, and this was, I think, Wednesday morning.
Thanks for burping away from the mic.
That was good, right?
That was good.
So Wednesday morning, he
Good
drove
redirect.
up to 22, and there was still a ton of trees at that time that had basically, fallen into the road. They had to like cut their way up basically to get up there. Parts of the road had been like damaged.
Speaking of, can you imagine like a lot of those were down when people were trying to get out?
Right. Or in the process of, for sure. It was interesting though, because he was talking about how a majority of Detroit was destroyed, right? Or a large portion of Detroit.
Sadly.
Yeah, really. Yeah, definitely sadly for sure. But he was talking about how he's like, this is something like I don't want to drive back up there. Like it's too hairy right now. Like that's crazy driving up there.
Yeah. And
basically there was still active fire that was going on as well to a degree.
Yeah, if it was earlier, even a couple days ago, it would have been
bananas.
Much worse.
Yeah. So as much of me, I do sadly, like I really want to go up there and see, what has taken place. How much is this?
I was trying to
for
think
the
about
next for the next 20 years. That drive is going to be different or more.
So I'm kind of the same way in that I desire not to see it because I want to see what people have lost or whatever. In my mind, I'm thinking this is something that I don't want to forget,
right?
Because I look at what's caused it, and I want to make sure that we understand, like we need to learn from this, and not because so the solutions that people are throwing out right now are
what are some of the solutions you're hearing?
Like Kate Brown needs to go, and it's like, hold on, stop for a second. There's still people hurting and pain and all that kind of stuff. The solutions you have right now. So some of the solutions are like Kate Brown caused this. It's Antifa. It's poor forest management. It's it's a myriad of things. Like they don't know how to fight fires. Like I've heard everything flung around, but all of those need to be discussed later. Like,
well, the interesting thing about
because right now the solution is we need to help.
Yeah, help the people that need help.
The people that are there and save what we can now.
The interesting thing about
those don't solve that now.
The forestry management aspect of this is I was driving. So this kind of ties into Sun River. We were driving to get to Sun River. You can't take 22 right now,
Obviously,
right?
Yeah, it's a little blocked.
So we had to go through Sweet Home and then take Highway 20.
I'm sorry.
So interesting. Have you taken Highway 20 to Bend?
Yes.
I had never taken Highway 20 to Bend before. It's fascinating.
It's very interesting.
It's very kind of like I felt like I was in Montana.
I mean, technically, you've taken Highway 20 to Bend. You just haven't taken.
I haven't
the
taken
Highway
the
20
junction by
that
Hoodoo.
goes to the junction.
Yeah. So it was very interesting to me because it was so much more wild than Highway 22 is.
Yeah.
Like the forest is even like way thicker, way denser.
Really.
And as I was driving
scary.
along, I was looking at these forests and I was looking, off these big bluffs and everything, and I was seeing how crazy thick that forest is.
Right.
And it's super steep. And I was like, I have no idea how they would manage these forests, how they would cut back the foliage.
So,
I mean, it doesn't seem feasible to even do
the second time that I went up with a couple other friends to check on a house of someone that had bought it from out of town that was hoping to move here in a few weeks, and they were like, I don't even know if I had a home. We went and we looked at that. We looked at another person's house that had like left their sprinklers on and just bailed with their family because the fire was 300 feet away. And luckily both of those places somehow were spared. I mean, they were, I can't explain, just like I can't explain how there's a house burned down and the one next to it's fine. As I was driving through there, like looking at that, I had this memory of when because I've hunted those hills quite a bit with my dad back in the day and hiked through a lot of those forests. And I remember like there would be like clear cuts when I was a kid. So they would clear cut and then they would take all the underbrush out, they would burn it, and then they would replant. and they would do that like strategically throughout, like over the years. They wouldn't just do it all at once, and they would
do
always,
different areas.
They would
too.
replant and stuff, and then it stopped because we wanted to save an owl. And I remember my dad like eating lunch, sitting down, talking about this, and him saying, if they do this, that you have to have one or the other. Forest fires ecologically create feed for the elk and the deer because they clear out an area. Now they cause destruction, but you have to have destruction for new life to spring up and new forest to spring up, and they get too thick and then they burn out. And so it's a natural thing, which is why they were letting Beachy Creek at first burn, because it needs to happen in certain areas to clear out and ecologically keep things cyclical.
So letting,
And so he was explaining to me as a kid. So I'm like 12 years old, 13 years old, sitting in the woods with my dad. And he's like explaining, if we don't clear cut and they don't allow the burning, it's eventually going to cause a problem. And this is 25 years ago. And now we're looking at the very area that he was telling me this in.
So the interesting
and watching it just, because a lot of those areas that when I would watch them get clear cut would turn into like grasslands, and the elk would graze through them, and it would give them all these areas and everything. And if you don't let one or the other happen, you're just building a tinderbox.
I'm not a logger, obviously, but
what do you mean, obviously?
Well,
I think you could.
People often mistake me for a logger, but they're wrong. I've cut a couple. I've done some kindling here and there.
Do you even have a flannel?
Don't want to brag. I know my share of flannels too.
You're mostly a cardigan guy,
but I love my cardis too. I love my cardis and my Cardi B.
Oh my gosh!
But
yeah,
I was thinking about this. Do they have to clear cut? Could they use more mobile type of ways of logging and use like areas where they just like every 10th tree they cut down, kind of like sparse
they could, but that's still not what a fire does. Think of what a fire does.
But if they
fire creates fields.
No, but I mean, if they made it so, like they talk about, like in Eastern Oregon, what they do to try to prevent fires is they clear a lot of the underbrush. They thinning, right? Thinning. That's what I'm saying. Like,
you could do that, but the problem with that is it's a ton more work.
Yes.
And so there's two sides to this coin, because when they did clear cut a lot of times they left like a couple old trees to reseed and they didn't replant. And that was not working. And so that's a great argument to say that's a bad practice. But they pendulum swung to the other side that says don't cut the trees down at all, and didn't let them do that anymore. When it should have been like Mr. Beast should have like gotten involved with them and done a whole like plant trees foundation, because what they needed to do was replant there when they did it,
right,
so that it grew up quicker. But the fields, like I've watched the elk population drop, and so if people like want to make an argument towards like animals surviving and stuff, they don't have enough food to flourish like they used to.
But they used to have. I mean, before we started clear cutting, they found a way to live too.
Fires burned a lot more than they do now because we put them out.
Yeah,
and that's why like the argument for Beachy Creek having been burning in the first place for a month. They know that needs to happen. If it was it's a natural process.
If it was a financially feasible option, I think thinning makes sense to me, because you could do it year round.
But it doesn't create the grass fields.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have to have. So you either use the lumber and clear cut it and replant, or you let it burn and you don't get any of it. So like either use the resource or don't. And there's somewhere in between there. I'm not like an expert in this, but. Yeah. If you don't do one or those other, like you're building a box of matches.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to
and we saw that happen in Bend.
We should have talked to Matt Landis about this a little bit, because he works for the tree service, a big company that basically just sells trees. We should have
sure there's
thought
a lot
about that ahead of time. Matt, we'll reach out to you someday, talk to you about this stuff, dude.
Matt, are you listening?
Brother.
Matt, just drop.
He's probably out in the trees right now.
Just drop on by right now,
looking for spotted owls or something.
No, probably a spotted cow.
Snap. Yeah, so crazy.
It has
the
been
whole fires talk.
It is sobering to see. It is heartbreaking to hear the stories of people that have had loss of not just home but loved ones, and our thoughts and prayers go out, because we're watching our neighborhoods suffer. The people around us suffer, and people that we know personally, people that we know from a distance. And it's going to be a while. Long after the cameras forget that this is a news story, there's still going to be people in pain.
Well, moving on from that sucky,
somber,
sad
terrible,
subject that's still kind of active right now.
And smoke everywhere. world.
I heard a interesting statistic this week.
What's that?
That approximately 52% of young adults in the United States are still living with their parents.
What's wrong with that?
And that age range goes from...
He doesn't even address my question. He's like, what's the age range, Curtis?
18 to 29.
Okay.
So approximately half of people aged 18 to 29 are still living with their parents. And what was interesting about this, they were talking about how at one time it was usually more of a...
social norm.
Well, no, not so much. It was actually less common. But
my grandma told me that her honeymoon was in the attic of her mom's house.
Was that during the Great Depression?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only other time. So this time that we're in right now is the time
You like that segue.
where the majority of the young people, this is the greatest time. No one has ever had a greater time in our American history where people of this age have lived with their parents still. But and then the Great Depression was the second most time.
That's crazy.
But they were saying how socioeconomics and ethnicity, at one time it was more the minorities that were still living with their parents.
Well, it's a cultural thing.
But now it's not.
It's the opposite.
Now they were saying that it's across
weird.
the board, whether you're Hispanic, Caucasian, African American, it doesn't matter.
I wonder why that is.
Well, they were talking about, especially during this year. This year, they're saying the pandemic basically forced a lot of people out of schools.
I can imagine a lot of people are living with people they weren't living with before out of sheer loneliness.
Well, maybe that too. Yeah, out of jobs, but then also like financial ramifications of people not being able to work is significant. So it's kind of like a little bit of maybe it'd be interesting if this changes the way the way people live a little bit, because it was kind of a cultural norm more in South America, certain places in Europe where your parents live with you forever. I mean, you always keep care of each other.
So it's different if your parents live with you than if you live with your parents.
Granted, yes, that's the opposite of the subject.
Yeah.
True. But I guess I see that transitioning into that of like everybody
if my kids get a sweet pad,
a same place,
I'm totally moving in.
Well, but you know what? I kind of like the idea of that type of financial strain not being placed on a parent, like worrying about like, hey, I need to know that I'm going to be able to afford a retirement home.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe it is, and you know, I'm not in this position right now, but I like the idea of thinking that I'm going to be able to take care of
careful,
my parents.
Your mom's listening.
I know, right? Our parents are listening.
Like, Mom, I'm going to move in.
But I mean, I think that if that was a more of an accepted,
is this your way
expectation
of breaking it to her?
No, this is what I'm going to say.
To stay?
So basically, I think my parents need to just sell their house, and then I'll take care of all that proceeds, you know, and then they can just come stay in our guest room, right?
I think that sounds super fair.
Super practical, right? Nah, just joshing, just goofing, new boot goofing.
Yeah. So since the world forgot about COVID.
What?
I know, exactly.
What's that?
Right?
What's that?
That sounds like when I tell my kids to do something. They're like, wait, what? I'm like, it's your ears. Let's use those auditory sensing things
There's
on the
that thing
side
in
of your
between
head.
your ears too.
But Gressic, which I don't know where this is. I read about it and I read where it was, but now I'm forgetting. I'm spacing it. Anyway, the idea here is people that have refused to wear masks are, as a punishment, being forced to dig graves of people who have died of COVID.
What?
I'm not like condoning or going there or saying my opinion or stance on this at all.
Wait, what's Gressic? Is that like
It's
a place in Europe?
A place. I don't know where it's
Gressic?
I'm looking it up right now. I'm telling you, I read this 5 minutes before I left, and then just
Gressic.
Like my brain.
Oh, Germany, maybe. Indonesia.
There you
Gressic,
go.
Indonesia. Yeah. There's a Gressic, Indonesia.
Like one of the top comments is, Gressic citizen here can confirm this is true, and the police also charge them with $12, that's not apparently a lot of money there, if they're not wearing a mask, so they can choose do public service or pay the charges of digging a grave.
Dude. Well, I mean,
yeah.
Here's my thoughts about the masks. When this whole thing, I've thought about this a decent amount.
I'm sure you've thought about it.
Right? So when...
Wait. Curtis, how do you feel about masks?
Well, let me tell you.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
You go.
You know what, Jordan? Thanks for asking, man. I appreciate that. That was very nice of you.
Well, there's no one else here asking.
When this whole kind of ordeal started, my leaning towards masks was mostly addressing healthcare workers and in the hospital, and how I viewed masks towards the appropriate types of masks. And so common surgical masks did not seem sufficient to me when you are working on somebody and they're aerosolizing their potential infection. Like you have somebody, they're sick, they're coughing in your face. If I just wear this basic surgical mask, that's not really helpful.
No. It's better than not wearing it.
It's better than nothing, granted.
Right.
100%. It's better than nothing, but it's not foolproof.
Right.
And that's where my leaning was, like, these surgical masks are not, who cares? No. These are stupid. But now that we have seen kind of the trend in the way that the virus spreads, and I am now a proponent of patients and myself wearing basic surgical masks because it has shown to be effective in preventing, at least decreasing the likelihood of it spreading.
Here's what the main complaint I've heard of people is they say, I looked up how small the COVID virus is, and a mask that's cloth that they're telling us to wear that they've now told us does not work for smoke, which that's the world we're living in, at least in our valley.
Right, which is wild.
They're like, well, the smoke is larger than the virus. And so if it's not good for smoke, it's not good for this. And what I don't think people realize is, okay, it's not COVID virus sized things that you're spraying out of your breath. It's that virus in droplets of like that you could see dropping out of your face. When you sneeze and you see the mist, that does get stopped by a mask.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, you might not stop 100% of everything coming out of your mouth.
So, like, regardless of like if you were afraid and think we should be wearing masks, that's the science, the logic behind it. It's just funny. People are like, now that the smoke is here, they have something else to compare it to, and.
But I mean, the basic thing with a mask is if you cough and sneeze, you might not stop 100% of the virus from coming out of your body, but you might stop 80% of the transmission method.
My favorite is like when it's a person standing. There's like a person standing there peeing, and if you wear pants and you pee your pants, it doesn't go as far, and so you're not peeing on somebody. Yes, it still makes a mess. Yes, it's still gross. Yes, it doesn't stop all of it.
Yeah,
but it keeps it from landing on your friend.
The funniest thing, and I love it. It's so cute. Is when I see, and I don't have any, malice towards this at all, but it's funny. It makes me giggle anytime I see an adult, or more often happens with kids, but they have to sneeze, and so they pull down their mask to sneeze. They just go, and they turn their head, pull down their mask, and
like
sneeze.
A billion times worse than
and you're like, well, okay,
what's the point?
That didn't really do the right thing. I don't know if that helped right there. And with a kid, obviously, I don't care. When an adult does it, I'm like, okay, that's.
Here's the thing, like they say, there's varying numbers, but like with the smoke that's been here, and folks that haven't been in this area, because there are a few of you, was it like Tuesday when the sun didn't rise? Like it was like midnight with a full moon bright at 2 p.m. They were saying like it was between like 18 cigarettes and 20 packs of cigarettes. I can't really figure out, like, I think people are just throwing it out there, but like essentially it's super bad for you to be breathing in these particles of plastic that's burned from up the canyon and blown to your home and everything. And like, okay, it's like, I guess like at this point, like I'm not super concerned about COVID when I'm smoking. I'm basically smoking cigarettes every time I walk to my car. Like
I'm going like, I'm getting like, we're talking about like, like a Marlboro Red non-filtered, We're talking you took a pile of dried
tobacco and set it on the middle of your floor, lit it on fire, let it just kind of stoke in the room, and then run in after having run 4 miles.
And the wild thing is like we're doing it to it's the kids too. Our kids are around that smoke too, which is
but
like
we can't get a read from it. Like,
you can't get away from it. You can put filters with fans on in your house. You can do whatever you try.
You can try to make it seem better.
It's still freaking.
It's insane. Like. Yeah, I've never in my life and never want to experience again just ash falling from the sky for a week.
Well, I have a white house, and so this has not been great for a white house in particular.
Well, now you have a charcoal house.
Now I have a gray house. Now I have a gray house.
But you have a house.
But at least I have a house that is not burnt. Exactly.
That is
keeping things in check there.
Much better. I would say this has made me things like this always put things in perspective.
Totally.
And it's it's cool to see a community come together
Yeah.
and try to help each other. There's been some awesome food trucks who've gone up to feed firefighters and police officers, and even just people that are staying in the towns taking care of their stuff, which some of those guys are the true heroes, and they won't ever take credit, putting out hot spots around their neighbors' homes when they don't have to risk their life and lungs.
Their lungs, yeah, dude, for sure.
Yeah, I don't say life and limb. It's life and lungs that they're risking right now.
Dude,
it's so
commendable
to see.
For sure.
And I hope that we can learn.
So tell me real quick here. We're gonna just transition. Go a little. I want a little tech questions here for you. What's some of these updates that we always like to dabble in the whole Tesla world and battery. Tell me what was this whole situation with Tesla, the battery predictions?
So I don't know a lot about this. I mean, it's all hearsay from other people, but Battery Day is coming up. I think it's September 18th or 19th.
Right. I'm super excited about this.
People are saying like that the battery tech that's going to come out is just going to blow everyone out of the water. Like double ranges and stuff like that. Can you imagine like
double ranges? That'd be phenomenal.
So
basically that'd be like if it was double ranges, we're looking at 600-mile ranges kind of thing.
Which I mean, like they've said like with the Cybertruck that with the big fully loaded
the tri-motor gets you 500.
Yeah, 500 to 600 miles. But if they could bump that to 1,000.
Well, because they're using a new battery method the rumor is like some type of silicone battery.
There's a lot of battery stuff that has been in the works for a while. Mm-hmm. I think it would be cool if we saw a battery tech that came out that Jenny Hayner, she says watching neighbors go outside in this smoke to smoke. I don't know how many, that's so true. I don't know how many people I drove past a family member the other day and stopped that was smoking a cigarette on the side of the road, and I said, hey dude, we don't need more smoke around here. And he made some smart aleck remark. He was like, well, I guess if you're doing it now, it's probably better for you than whatever you're inhaling if you're not inhaling the cigarette right now. So
that's true. That's true.
Anyway, that's super true. That's
a good point.
Yeah. I've seen that too.
That's exciting with Tesla.
Yeah.
But then, so the funny thing is that I literally got a text message maybe the day before this happened that somebody was really excited about the Nikola motors, and because they were coming out with the Badger, right? The Nikola Badger,
or and they had the semi truck that they kept showing and everything,
right? And it was a really cool looking design electric vehicle, right?
But they hadn't ever shown anything that was like substantial. There were some people that had seen
bringing to like actual.
They had seen prototypes
floor
and
models,
stuff,
yeah.
But like the truck prototype apparently wasn't even. It didn't work even like months after they showed it at a thing, and now they're like getting hammered with like lawsuits.
Well, basically they were accused of massive fraud. They were saying that they had essentially the idea, but they didn't have any of the actual intellectual like property to actually build this electric motor and vehicle. And they had, I think, investors of like, I believe it was it in the billions?
It had to be
or
for what they
maybe
were saying.
Maybe not billions, but it was significantly. It was like hundreds
enough
and hundreds.
That they should be scared right now for cheating people out of
hundreds of millions of dollars, basically invested into this company that had nothing really.
So that's really good for Tesla stock that just split a few weeks ago, and if it rises like they were, some people stand to make some decent money.
Yeah. We got to get some Tesla stock, dude.
Yeah, it probably should have got it a little while ago. If we really wanted it.
Yeah, better now than never.
So get this. I have some TILs.
Okay. Yeah, you want to do TILs?
Yes. Today I learned that Emperor Wu of Jin had so many women that he could choose to sleep with that he didn't know who to choose. So he rode a small cart pulled by a goat, and he would sleep with whichever woman managed to stop the goat.
So he's basically saying he's into goat wranglers.
Yes.
He's like saying, I like me a good woman that can hold a goat down. Because tonight's going to get crazy, so I need a woman that can handle a goat.
Yeah.
Because I'm a goat. I'm the greatest of all time. I'm the goat. Oh, snap.
Do you have any TILs or no?
I have one TIL.
Give it to me because I have one more.
Let's see here. Okay, this was interesting. Today I learned in 2017, more people were killed from injuries caused by taking a selfie than were killed by shark attacks.
Ooh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Totally. People do not pay attention.
How many people fell off
selfies?
like a cliff or fell off like some type of building? Yeah.
Ugh. Today I learned when Picasso died. I found this interesting since we had to go.
Ooh, Picasso.
Little over there. He died at the age of 91.
I did not know he lived that long.
He left more than 45,000 works.
Whoa.
In 1980, the Picasso estate was appraised at $250 million, but experts have said the true value was actually in the billions. Picasso did not leave a will, and the division of his holdings took 6 years among 7 heirs.
Oh, fascinating. So
took that long to divide them up because he left no will. So I guess the moral of the story is, folks, get a will.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to leave 45,000 works of art.
A world famous artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our situation, it's not quite as that significant, but
it's well, when you have kids too. Yeah. Okay. Just get a will, people. Like, don't be.
Do you have a will though?
Yeah. Don't be Picasso. I don't know how updated it is at this point, but there's one there.
I don't have a will.
You should get one. It's super easy to do.
Yeah. I don't know if I have the will to have a will.
You just have to sign it in blood. That's the hardest part. You have to prick your thumb.
Oh man.
And put it on there.
Not saliva.
Saliva
should work.
No, not since COVID.
Touche. All right, I got shower thoughts. If you got shower thoughts,
let's do shower thoughts.
All right, shower thoughts.
Wrap this up.
Let's see here. So, the animal best at camouflage probably is yet to be discovered.
I saw one person post on Facebook the other day. I'm calling it now. These fires were started to try to smoke out Bigfoot.
Or we maybe lost Bigfoot in this.
It's true. Although somebody posted a picture of the Bigfoot that's carved. Is it in Detroit or it's one of the?
It's lions, right?
Is it? It's still there. Like the big wooden statue of him is still there. And someone commented and said, "Oh, my son's gonna be so happy it's there."
I don't know.
Honestly, the town lines of those cities, I've figured them out more in the last week than I ever have. They're
basically it's 22, I think.
It's not.
It's not 22?
Super bizarre how some of them work. Even our city. Yeah. Anyway, eventually there's going to be more pictures of the dead on the internet than of the living.
True. Yeah. Good point. That'll take a while, but yeah.
Not that long.
Just
takes the internet culture.
I thought this was cool.
The internet baby's dying.
That's true. Every broken clock is telling us when it passed away.
We got a lot of death here. I'm going to change this up a little bit. How about this? We'll go the opposite end of the direction. Your birth certificate is your first participation award.
Yay! Good job.
You did it.
You did it. You my daughter. I still don't have a birth certificate yet for my youngest. We haven't requested it yet. She has her social security card.
Shouldn't you have gotten that when you left the hospital?
No, you have to mail in for it.
What?
Yeah, you don't get him in the hospital anymore.
I thought that was when they just put the footprints down or something.
So the word stomach sounds a lot less cool than energy extraction chamber.
Yeah, but that
would be more like intestines.
Can you imagine? They'll be like, I have an energy extraction chamber.
My eek. It'd be called my eek.
Ache.
My eek. Yeah. My eek.
Energy extraction chamber ache.
Yeah.
Kids would never tell you that they were sick. On the other end of the spectrum, it's strange how we're awarded a certificate for dying.
True. All right, my last one. Future kids probably will associate cell phone addiction with old people.
It's probably true, like smoking. Or Europeans.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Oh, okay. If people are colored white, black, this is really fitting for the time that we're living in right now, where there's all these protests and everything. But this is hilarious. Okay. So just stick with me, folks. Don't quote the first part. Listen to the end. If people are colored white, black, brown, yellow, and red, then people need to be thinking less about how different we are and more about how we were clearly meant to be the next team of Power Rangers.
Yes. It's team effort. It's team effort. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, guys, with that, we hope everybody out there is doing okay. And our thoughts and prayers go out for everybody that struggled this past week, these past 8 or so days.
And we'll continue to.
Yeah. And if anybody has anything in particular they want us to address or anything that they would hope for us to be able to help them out with, let us know. Reach out to us in whatever way you'd like. And we hope we will have a great week and get breathing better out there as the rains hopefully come in the next couple days.
I hope so.
We're all crossing our fingers for that. So, all right,
Except
guys.
They're calling for lightning storms too.
We don't need that. We just need rain.
Super don't need lightning storms. Those can just take a hike.
Just take the rain. Just take a little bit of rain.
2020's thrown enough at us. We thought it couldn't get worse.
Yeah. Also, if you want a perfect illustration of what 2020 looks like, go to our Testing Normal on Instagram and look at our latest video.
Mama duck.
The poor mama duck. Everybody check that out on Instagram.
I hope she got those
right
back. I wish there was like a follow-up to
I'm
that
sure
story.
somebody had to have rescued him.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Peace out.
Be strong.
Have a good week.